Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Mac community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. This time I'm happy to welcome back Mr. Jeff Carlson. We haven't talked to Jeff for a while. This time he is the author of the iPad for Photographers. Yes, I said iPad for Photographers. Jeff, it's great to have you back.
I'm wonderful to be back.
Jeff, the iPad for Photographers, usually we're talking to you, well, we talk to you about a lot of things. Usually it's a visual quick start guide, but this is a bit different. This is from Peach Pit, but this is yours.
Yeah, it's sort of my little baby. At about I don't know, sometime last year, I had the idea that perhaps it might be time to do a book-length work about using the iPad if you're a photographer. And that doesn't actually include like using the iPad as a camera, although the new iPad is a much better camera. But like all the other things that you could do with an iPad if you're a photographer, and that's whether you're a professional photographer or an amateur or whatever. When Apple first introduced the original iPad, they also introduced the camera connection kit, and the idea behind that is you can upload your digital photos from a camera, either directly from the camera or from a memory card, into your iPad so that you can view them, on the larger screen. And that sort of opened the door to a bunch of other possibilities, like, do I even want to take a laptop with me when I go on vacation? Because, really I'm on vacation, I'm not working, but I still need some place to look at my photos. And before, you sort of had to take a laptop with you. Well, with an iPad, you don't necessarily need to do that. And a lot of developers have come out with things that make the iPad an interesting tool. The tagline for the book is, master the newest tool in your camera bag, because it's small, it's compact, and because it's an iPad, it can do all sorts of things that you might not have originally thought of. So it sort of reached a tipping point where there was a lot of really good information out there that I thought would work well as a standalone book. So I pitched Peach Pit on the idea, and they loved it, and we made this beautiful book.
I think this is the perfect time for this to come out, because we are just now starting to, a lot of us have had a little more time to play with iPhoto for the iPad, which I don't know if that's the best editor or the best program, but it's certainly the one that a lot of people, maybe even most people, are going to reach for because they're familiar with it. They know the iPhoto name. It comes from Apple. Therefore, it's going to be where they start. But I know there have been a lot of really amazing photo retouching apps, things that you get to play with photos, and some are built for, maybe for the iPhone or include the iPhone, but the iPad is where they really shine.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, a lot of that is because you have that great big beautiful screen, and so that gives you a lot of possibilities for viewing photos, certainly, but also for editing them. And so there are applications that sort of attempt to be like a Photoshop for the iPad, which would be sort of like iPhoto. There's a program called PhotoGene. There's actually now actual Photoshop. It's called Photoshop Touch, that let you do a lot of the common things that you would want to do to a photo, whether it's, let's say, you need to straighten something, or just crop the composition, make really easy color adjustments, light and dark areas, things like that normally you would have to wait until you got back to a computer to do. Now you can just do it on your iPad, and then share it to Flickr or 500px or whatever, and then you don't have to have that long lag. So iPhoto is great. The actual funny thing about iPhoto is that the book was being, I think it was almost literally on the press when Apple announced the new iPad and iPhoto. So if you buy the print version of the book, it doesn't include information about iPhoto, but that was the first thing I did after the news of the new iPad. I wrote an addendum that includes iPhoto and Photoshop Touch, and made that available for free to people who buy the book. So if you buy a print version, there's a little sticker on the front that points you to peachpit.com/iPad update, where you can download that information. If you buy the ebook version, on Kindle or iBookstore or some other place, the addendum should now just be included with that. So it was like you get like 1 1/8 of a book. Because of Apple's timing, and like there was just no way we could have held the print date longer. So
once again, we could go down the ebook route and the advantages, but we won't go there. Mm-hmm. We've already done that so much, and if folks don't get it by now, you're not paying attention.
Yeah.
Jeff, so let's leave maybe iPhoto, well, to some degree, out of the discussion. Mm-hmm. I have to admit, I'm a digital picture taker. I'm not a digital photographer, and the difference is I don't spend a lot of time agonizing over my photos. I tend to take them. If I got a good one, great. If I didn't, then it goes to the trash. But the iPad has made even me want to move some photos over and play with things like the software from Nick with iPhoto. And I'm surprised that I'm finding myself much more comfortable playing with some of the photo manipulation using my fingers instead of the mouse, instead of the tools that I'm so used to.
Yeah.
This was a big surprise, and that's why I was really anxious to talk to you about the book.
Yeah, it's weird, and like as we try to verbalize this, I know that some people are going to think we're just off our rockers, but you do have like an interesting tactile sense of like you are actually manipulating your photos with your fingers in real time. So iPhoto does that. I also talk about a program called Snapseed, which started on the iPhone and the iPad, and now there's also a Mac version. And Snapseed's cool approach was that rather than having a bunch of just like little sliders, like increase the brightness with this little slider here, and you're kind of like hitting these little tiny targets, and you're sort of like half removed. Their approach was no, just like touch your finger on the screen anywhere, and you use that to you can move up and down to choose what sort of control you want, like brightness or contrast, and then you move side to side to adjust the intensity level. And so you're actually doing that with your hands. You're seeing the feedback right away to get a sense of what you're doing and how it's changing the image right there. And so I think it is more welcoming, a little more interactive, and it just gives you that sense that like I'm actually really doing this versus I'm sort of half removed, and like you are adjusting things directly. You're not sort of like working on it, if that makes any sense.
Jeff, it makes perfect sense, and that's a much more eloquent way of expressing it than I was doing. I think there's something intimidating, I don't care how experienced you are, unless you're a pro, about opening up Photoshop, about opening up Photoshop Elements, about opening up Pixelmator, any of the photo retouching apps, mm-hmm. and starting to play with them, because there's so many tools, there's so many ones, there's so many options. And most of these programs on the iPad, and Snapseed in particular, that's the one I was thinking of from Nick, mm-hmm. They aren't nearly as intimidating, and yet they are extremely powerful and extremely deep if you want to dive in that deep.
Yeah, and I also think that another strength is that a lot of these apps, like something like Photogene and something like iPhoto, they're really trying to put a lot in, so that you don't really have to go anywhere else to do your photo manipulation. But there are also a lot of photo apps that just do one or two things and do them really well. Like there's one that I talk about called Touch Retouch, and I can't remember the developer offhand, but it's basically just for making for fixing blemishes and things like that. So and that's something that these other tools have. But if you're familiar with Adobe Photoshop CS5 and CS6, there's a program. There's not a program. There's a feature called Content Aware Healing, which basically the software is applying some smarts in order to, get rid of an area. So instead of just saying, okay, here's a spot that I need to fix, and then like traditionally you'd have to use like a stamp tool, and it sort of jumps quickly into the wow, you really kind of have to know what you're doing versus I just want to fix something. This uses that same type of technology so that you can just paint over a little area and it fixes it, like really as direct as that. In fact, the example that I have in my book, I had a picture of my daughter in a pile of leaves during the fall, and I noticed that in the background there was like a little bike or push toy or something, but of course it was like plastic and blue and yellow and red. It like really just sort of popped, and I kind of kicked myself for not framing it at the time, but that sort of happens. And using this touch retouch software on the iPad, I just basically painted over that, and then it took maybe 20 seconds for it to process, and then it was gone. And just like that's it. And the photo that I have in the book, is taken directly from that. I didn't cheat and sort of say here's how to do it, and then go into Photoshop and really kind of make it look pretty because it's a big full screen photo. Like what's in the book is the actual output from that app. So so you have utilities that specialize in things like that, and and usually they're like a 99-cent or $2 utility that will do that.
Well, that's the other thing, that with all these apps, we're not talking. I mean, I think I haven't prepared this, but if I really looked, maybe I could find a $10 or $15 app if I really pushed hard. Yeah. And that's another thing I think that is making this very approachable. I'm likely to download a $2, $3, $4, $5 app to play a little bit, as opposed to investing $50, $60, $70 or $500, $600, $700. Yeah. And an amazing learning curve here. Download it, open it up from the camera roll, and start playing.
Yeah, and like for most people, they're not interested in building an image with lots of layers and curves and things like that. I mean, some of those things are definitely possible, but for the most part, your average person wants to, like say, all right, I took this picture, I brought it into my iPad, I can see it, it looks great. It just needs a little bit of something, like maybe it just needs like a little more saturation, or like this one area is dark or something like that, and you can do that really easily. I have an example of some grapes that I shot, and iPhoto has the capability, rather than just applying a correction to the entire image, you can just sort of paint on the area that you want to in this case lighten. And so like the leaves around these grapes looked fine. The grapes were just like a little bit dark, and so just by painting with one finger, I was able to just bring those up a little bit. That made it a much better photo without having to again import it into my Mac, launch a utility. iPhoto on the Mac actually doesn't do that. It can't do that sort of selective correction. So it's and all of this is capable on the iPad, on this thing that you may have with you because you wanted to read a book or check your email or something. So like it's all there. It's all compact and more direct to access.
Jeff, you talked about editing the photo with your daughter, and we all know that the new iPad, the latest iPad, has a much better camera. It's equal to the iPhone's camera. But you also, or I should say, do you cover in the book moving pictures on and off from a regular camera, or in your case, I know you have DSLRs and micro four thirds and all that good stuff that the real digital photographers have.
Yeah, definitely. The entire first chapter is basically about how to get images from your camera into the iPad, and but one way to do that is using the camera connection kit. So you can pop your memory card out, put it in the iPad, everything gets loaded into the iPad's camera roll. But there are also other ways of doing it. If you have an iFi memory card, which is a little memory card that has a built-in Wi-Fi radio, you can set your iPad so that as you are taking pictures with your DSLR or your, like I have a Canon G12, which is sort of a advanced point and shoot. As you're taking pictures, those pictures are being wirelessly sent to your iPad, because your iPad, you connect to the iFi card as if it's its own wireless network. And so, like you can, as you're taking shots, you can then review them fairly quickly on the big screen, rather than having to, like take some pictures, stop everything, take the card out, connect all that stuff. Like it can just sort of happen in the background. Which can be really great for if you are maybe doing some sort of photo shoot. Maybe you're doing someone's portrait and you want to get some really good feedback on how your lighting looks, and just get a better preview than what the comparatively small screen on the back of your camera offers. So there are things like that you can also do that make the iPad interesting, and so you don't have to bring your laptop and everything with you if you're just going to be gone for the weekend, say. So
go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, well, and I was going to say, and then I also have another chapter about sort of shooting in the studio. There's a software called DSLR Camera Remote HD by On1, and this lets you basically remotely trigger your camera using the iPad. So in this case, you do need a computer sort of sitting in the middle, but you connect your computer to the camera by a tether cable, and you run some software on your computer, and then on the iPad you run the DSLR camera remote. And while you're using the iPad, you're basically seeing what your camera sees, and you can adjust the camera settings. You can take shots right there without having to go and, like, let's say you have your camera set up and it's locked down on a tripod, and you don't really want to be bent over it and trying to get some of the weird angles that you need to get some shots. Here you can just look and see and then take a picture on your iPad. Or let's say you're a pro photographer and you're doing a job for clients, and the clients are there and they want to see what's going on. Well, if you don't really want your client standing over your shoulder and sort of micro directing, you can like point them to the nice comfy couch with the cinnamon rolls and the coffee, and hand them an iPad and just tell them, don't push the shutter button, but look here, and you can see how the shoot is going as we go, and then give feedback that way. So bunch of different options.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea, because not only does it get you get them out of your face, but they also get to actually see the photo as opposed to watching you shoot the photo. It's a lot different experience.
Yeah. So it's and a lot of this just wasn't really possible a few years ago because like you pretty much had to do everything with a laptop, and now you don't necessarily have to do that. And so it's sort of liberating in that respect. In fact, there's a product that just popped up on my radar called Trigger Tool, I think. My apologies if I'm not remembering their name correctly. And what that does, it's an iOS app that runs on your phone or on your iPad, and they sell a little adapter and a cable depending on what sort of camera you have. And so basically, you can do tethered shooting. By just having your iPad connected to your camera, and so that gets rid of the laptop altogether. And it has some neat features like it can use the GPS in your phone or your iPad to like say, take a shot every 10 meters or something. So let's say you have your camera set up and you're on a driving trip and you kind of want to just have you're looking out the window and you want kind of an abbreviated "here we are going down the road" type of a movie, and so it can just snap a shot every mile or every whatever, and other features like activate the shutter when a face is in the frame, or things like that. So just really cool things that I don't know if Apple sort of thought about these beforehand, or just sort of like made this ecosystem available, and then people are like, oh well, if we could do this, if we can get a photo in there, maybe we can do X, Y, and Z, and so it's really sort of taking off from there.
It's amazing what the iPad and iPhone's hardware has done to digital photography. The addition of the geolocation, the portability, the fact that you're going to have it with you all the time, and then as far as the iPhone goes, and then the iPad with the screen and the touch interface. We talk about it so often, Jeff, but it seems like technology, and in particular Apple technology, transforms a lot of things, and I get the sense that that's sort of what's happening in digital photography right now.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, definitely. Another, I think I would say like one of the reasons that I wrote the book in the first place is that, again, there's often a lag between when you take a photo and then when you actually do something with it. Especially like, if you're on vacation, you want to enjoy your vacation, but you want to take some pictures, and maybe you're going to just, wait until you get back to your computer, and then you dump all your photos on and then sort through them there. But there's like a lot of opportunity to kind of do that sort of rating and sorting, and just that initial culling that we all do, because with digital cameras you end up sort of taking a vast quantity of shots, and maybe most of them are no good, but you're sort of trying to get everything you can. Well, on the iPad you can go through and sort through these things. There's a program that I talk about called Photosmith, and I have to give a lot of credit to the developers of Photosmith, because I talked them into letting me use an early version of their 2.0 software, which isn't quite out yet, to write about, because it has sort of all of the cool features that I was hoping that an app would do. And so what you can do is you can bring in your photos, and you can right there rate them. You can apply keywords. You can put them into separate groups and albums and things like that. A lot of this sort of not necessarily drudge work, but it's time-consuming tasks that sometimes get in the way of doing it at all. So if you're on the plane coming back from your vacation and you just have some time to kill, you can do a lot of that rating and sorting, and then when you get back to your computer, all of that can just get dumped directly into Lightroom with all of the metadata and everything intact, so that then you can go and work on those really good images that you want to do something more with, or take those and just share the really good ones, and reject some of the others, and that's usually like a long, time-consuming process that you get home from vacation and you sort of think you're going to have nights and weekends that you can go through all your photos and your video and all of that. And then you get busy and you don't do it, and then your photos just sort of end up stuck on your hard drive. Well, here's a way to, like actually do something with them while it's still fresh, while you're, still in that mode, while, the memory of the shoot is right there, and you can do something with it. So I think, for me, that's like one of the coolest things about being able to use an iPad in this way. And again, I don't have to, haul my whole laptop and everything with it. So,
well, it removes so much of the friction, I think, from the digital photography. We all know the advantages of digital photography. The disadvantages are that you take so many. I mean, it used to be that you pulled out in my case, a point and shoot, and then you would send it off to the drugstore to get them developed, and they'd come back, and now you have your pictures, and then you look at them and they put them in a shoebox. Which never seemed to make a lot of sense. When you think about it now, it didn't make a lot of sense. Back then, it was perfectly logical.
Yeah.
But now you're wanting to do so much more. But you're right. You just shoot your brains out with these things, and you end up with a lot of things that you capture more, but you also capture a lot that maybe you don't need to keep, or you took the same thing 3 or 4 times just to be sure. And so the iPad has made that a little bit easier, because I know I used to come back from vacation or a trip or whatever, stick the card in the computer, and then, okay, which ones am I going to get rid of? And, do that culling process. It's much easier to do it. It's more fun to do it now on an iPad.
Yeah. Well, and it's also, I mean, you will likely be with somebody, and so, I can show my wife, like, here are the shots we took today. Which ones do you like? And you can, be more engaged rather than, okay, I'm going to go up into my office and I'll, probably see you tomorrow because I'll be up late trying to, go through these. Instead of that sort of separateness, you can, like the app, it's right there, and like someone can look over your shoulder and point out things that you may have missed. Just like lots of close together collaboration type of actions. So, I mean, I know that I'm sort of sounding a little hyperbolic, like the iPad will bring you together, and like maybe I'm like subtly working on an Apple commercial or something, but I think the potential is there, because it's you're more likely to just have it with you, and if you can do all sorts of these great things with it, then it improves your time, it improves your photography, you get more direct feedback, and all these positive things.
The sequel to Jeff's book will be Better Relationships Through the iPad by Jeff Carlson.
That's right.
Yeah. Opens up a whole new realm, Jeff. Oh, man. What do you think the most surprising advice or surprising discovery you had when you wrote this book is? Because a lot of what we've talked about, there's some obvious things in there, there's some things people probably haven't thought about. But there had to be some surprises here.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's like any super tip that comes up. I think most of it is that there are capabilities that a lot of people don't realize, and they're sort of just now getting to be some capabilities that you would naturally want and that weren't available. So that sounds very cryptic. The thing that I'm thinking of right now is one difficulty of having of going out and taking photos is you fill up your card, and then you need to do something with your photos because those are the only copies that you have. And so you want to have some way to back them up. Well, the traditional way of doing that is you have your laptop and you have your big laptop hard drive, and you dump everything off onto your hard drive, and at least there, it's in another place. If you have, like, let's say a MacBook Air that doesn't have a whole lot of storage, that reduces that possibility. And even with the iPad, if you have a an iPad that's only 16 gigs, if you're filling up 8 gig cards, then you're going to sort of end up running into storage limitations like that. And so backing up is sort of a sticky problem. So some ways of dealing with that are use PhotoStream. If you can get a robust internet connection somewhere, when you import all these photos into the iPad, and if you're on iCloud and you use PhotoStream, those will all get added to your PhotoStream. So there you have like a backup, on the cloud. Excuse me while I hit my light here. And or you can again, if you have a good internet connection, you can take your photos and upload them to Dropbox or something like that. Another very recent thing that's come up recently, Seagate has a little portable hard drive called the GoFlex Satellite. And what it is it's a little hard drive that has a Wi-Fi radio in it. And so the original idea for the product was that if you have a small capacity iPad, say 16 gigs, and you want to bring, like your entire video library, or you have more music that can fit on it, you would dump all that media onto the GoFlex Satellite, and then basically use it as sort of like a little network server, and you'd point the iPad's Wi-Fi signal at the drive, and be able to watch whatever movies you want. Then you're not sort of filling up your iPad storage. Well, now again with this Photosmith software, you can go the other way, which is something that for whatever reason Apple has made it difficult to get things off of the iPad. Like you can't just connect a hard drive to the dock connector, because I don't know why, because Apple likes control. But and so that's a problem when you want to back up your stuff. So the developers of Photosmith, they actually, it turns out, like they knew somebody at Seagate who knew somebody, and they worked with Seagate to make a firmware update for the drive that allows you to basically communicate directly from Photosmith to the drive. And so you can take the photos that you've imported into the iPad and copy them over to the drive. So now suddenly you have a portable backup. And if you value your photos, and I'm sure everybody does, having a backup is really important. So this was something that as I was like trying to come up with the workflow of how you use an iPad in sort of photographic situations, that was always kind of a stumbling block. It's like, okay, well, you can get it on there, but even a 64 gig iPad doesn't leave a whole lot of room if you're a real prolific shooter. So it was interesting because as I was writing the book, a lot of this stuff was evolving, and I had to, sort of change things around and say, oh, okay, like this capability that I thought was just not going to happen is now possible. And so that I think was a bit of a surprise in being able to do things like that. To answer your original question, so long answer to your original question.
No, it's a good answer, and it may be sort of a good place for me to ask the question to wrap this up, and that is, do you think the iPad has become a new essential tool for the digital photographer? And now I'm talking about the advanced or even pro digital photographer. For the rest of us, yeah, it's seductive, and in fact, it may be even more necessary for us because it lets us do things that we really couldn't or wouldn't do before. But for the mid-level to pro, is it just now essential equipment like a certain lens or a certain camera or a certain other gear?
I would say for most photographers, it's either it's like just barely essential, and actually that kind of diminishes it. I think that pro photographers can get a lot out of it. What's interesting is that I've been talking about importing photos and all that workflow. I think for a lot of photographers, pro photographers specifically, what they are interested in is using the iPad as a portable portfolio. So, they're shooting digitally already, and then they have to, make prints and have a photo book and all of that. And I'm just hearing from more photographers who, they want to be able to showcase their photos at a client meeting, or when they're having that first contact with let's say a couple who are about to get married, and be able to take the iPad and show a portfolio, and there's a whole chapter about building a portfolio, and there's portfolio software that really caters to this, so that you can show your best works and have them there for people to view, or even if you have the network set up and stuff. If you have a big screen TV and an Apple TV, you can take your portfolio and project it on a larger display. So, let's say you're a wedding photographer and you just shot, the day. With a lot of photographers, they're sort of expected to be able to, have, a really unheard of turnaround. So with an iPad, it's possible you could, dump your photos, do a really quick, rating and culling, connect that to an Apple TV, and have a slideshow of what happened during the day at the reception that's all being run from your iPad. And you don't have to, again, bring a laptop and a projector and all of that stuff. If the other pieces are available, and I think more and more they are. Even if you're at a hotel and you they're bound to have a meeting room that has a big screen TV. If you have an iPad and a little tiny Apple TV with the right cable, there you go. You have a portable, massive, professional portfolio slideshow environment. And, that may be something that you can offer that other photographers won't. So maybe you'll get the job because of that. So, that I think, especially as pros sort of dip their toes into it, as they think, well, I could buy an iPad or I could buy this 70 millimeter lens, that having the iPad starts to make more sense as a presentation tool, and as something you can have if you're going to be a traveling photographer. You load it up with books. You put all of your camera manuals right there. You put all of your reference materials as PDFs. You sort of take a lot of that stuff that used to be bulk. Get the PDF version of my book and put it on the iPad. And so,
what a salesman! What a salesman!
And that sort of is above and beyond all the stuff an iPad will let you do, like upload files, email, web access, all of that other stuff is all in this tiny thin package. So, I don't think that it's quite at the point where, a real serious pro will ditch a lot of equipment, because, I think some of your high-end pros, they're set with, multiple laptops, and, there's chains of redundancy, and, when you're talking about that level, the iPad's not quite there, but it's certainly a good addition on the side. And, and the thing that we have to keep remembering is, this is a product that's 2 years old. you know, so, and, you know, if we're able to do all of this on a product that wasn't designed technically as a photographic tool, you know, what are we going to do next year or the year after that? You know, maybe who knows what? Like it might actually replace, you know, $6,000 worth of gear on your photo shoot. I don't know, but it's exciting to be able to, you know, start now and sort of watch it happen and be a part of it.
Yeah, I agree, and I do think it's to the point now that if you're not experiencing an iPad, and I don't say a tablet, I mean an iPad, I think you're falling a little behind. Whether it's digital photography, whether it's ebooks like we started out laughing about, or just the mobile computing environment, taking nothing away from the iPhone, because the iPhone is certainly an amazing device, and I'd be hard pressed to say which one I'd rather give up. But with the screen, with the increased space and the ability to really get some real work done on it, digital photography or otherwise, yeah, it's kind of an amazing time once again, thanks to Apple, and thanks to you for showing us how to use it in one particular discipline. Jeff, normally at this point I'd say, where can I get the book? But I know the book is everywhere. You alluded to it, so it's obviously in paper. Is it in the iBook store?
It is. And I'll make a little plug. If you go to iPadforphotographers.com, that's the blog that I set up to go along with it. There's a button that says buy the book, and it has links to, you can get it as a Kindle edition in bookstores, iBookstore. There's a Nook e-version. Peachbit, I think, has a bundle where you can get the print version and the ebooks, and the ebooks include an EPUB version that, you know, just has the text flowed, and also the PDF version where you get the full layout, and yeah, it's everywhere, man. So. But you know, I'm actually very proud of how it looks, because you know, like we put a lot of time into getting, you know, like making, you know, big splash screens that are interesting and big full color, so you can see what's going on, and you know, like really see the results, and not just sort of have, like, you know, text, and then a little tiny thumbnail image and text. So you know, I'm biased to the print laid out version, but I also really like the convenience of having it, you know, on the iPad.
Yeah, well, that way you can take it with you on vacation and learn what you should be doing with your iPad on vacation while you're on vacation.
Yes, exactly.
Well, Jeff, as always, of course, I'll have links in the show notes to every version of the book that I can find, and to your blog, and to everything else, all the products and apps we've referenced, to make it easy for the folks to find. Because, frankly, you mentioned a couple of things I didn't know about, so now I've got to go and check those out. Just what I needed. Thanks, Jeff. You gave me more to do.
I'm here to make work for you. Yes.
Listen, come back anytime. I know you have a lot of projects in the works. It's always great to have you. We really appreciate the time and you sharing some of your wisdom.
Absolutely. Happy to do it.
We'll do it again soon.
Thanks, Chuck.
Folks, this is Mac Voices, the talk of the Mac community. I'm Chuck Joyner, and you've been listening to Jeff Carlson, the author of The iPad for Photographers. Again, please check out our show notes, and as I've been trying to educate everyone, we now have live fire commenting on all of the Mac Voices group websites. So if you have something to say, please post the comment there. We'd love to start a conversation with you. Until the next time, and as always, thanks for listening. MacVoices TV is part of the MacVoices Group and a member of Mac Level 10.